Paddy Andrews, after an incredible All-Ireland Senior Football Championship semi-finalists, finished Mayo 17 points, Dublin 14 points after extra time. After 6 All-Ireland titles in a row, Dublin have been dethroned at the semi-final stage this year. Give us your initial reaction.
Look, I think at half-time everything was going according to script for what everyone would have thought in the build-up. Dublin in complete control, 10-4 up, and Mayo struggling to get a foothold in it. And in the second half, Mayo, to be fair, we should know better than to write them off. They win the second half 9 points to 3, and all it was just savage energy, very similar to their second half performance in the Connacht final. And Dublin, to be fair, the questions were there when they were up against a real test, how they were going to deal with it, and they failed that test in the second half. Just sloppy on the ball, unforced errors, allowing Mayo to get back into the game, and they got a reprieve to get it into extra time. But Mayo, they had the momentum when they went extra time, 4 points to 1 as well. So look, it's Mayo's day, I think, to be fair. A lot of players there that have had bad days in this stadium over the last 7 or 8 years, guys like Lee Keegan, Dermot O'Connor and the like. They finally got one over on Dublin, and I think ultimately, if you look over the second half and extra time, it was probably deserved. And Dublin, just for all the composure in the first half, that was brilliant to see, and we lauded them for it. That just deserted them in the second half, and that's the end of the road. It's been an incredible 7 years for them since they last lost the championship match, and ultimately it's Mayo who've got their number today.
It was a remarkable game altogether. First half, Dublin were Dublin. They were swashbuckling, they were in complete control, they were 6 points up at the break. Start of the second half, James McCarthy's bearing down on goal inside a couple of seconds, and he goes for goal, it goes wide. There's a litany of errors after that as Mayo kicked 3 points in that third quarter to keep Dublin scoreless for 20 minutes. What went wrong for Dublin, Paddy, in the second half?
Look, it was very similar to the third quarter we seen against Meath in the Leinster semi-final. And to be fair, Mayo didn't even get the scores at that time. It's just Dublin's momentum. They had 3 or 4 turnovers during that period of play. James McCarthy's chance, Dean Rock hits a wide as well. And for the first 16 minutes, Dublin just can't get a score in that quarter. And that just allowed Mayo get back into the game. They kick a couple of points. Lee Keegan comes up. Years and years he's been doing it, and he kicks an inspirational score for them, and it just kept Mayo in touch. If Dublin, I'd say, even take one of those chances and they push the gap out to 7-8 points, there's Mayo's energy gone. But just those mistakes that we touched on in the Leinster Championship, we said, look, it was a bit of rustiness, it was a bit of complacency probably, that they were so comfortable in the Leinster Championship. They came back to haunt them today on the biggest stage, and Mayo just being able to keep in touch, and once they got a bit of momentum, Dublin just couldn't wrestle it back, and that was been one of their greatest strengths, with guys coming off the bench and having that experience to be able to control games down the stretch. Dublin lacked that today, and unfortunately that was the questions everyone was asking about Dessie Farrell and the turnover of players, and I think they just lost control of that game at the crucial moments, and Mayo were able to just about take advantage of it.
The benches were one thing. Mayo got 2 points off the bench through Jordan Flynn and Darren Cohn. Sean Bugler scored Dublin's point off the bench, the first score of extra time. But it wasn't just the scores that made the difference. Aidan O'Shea was taken off after 48 minutes, and Mayo's shape changed after that. What changed in that Mayo team? It was a very, very young Mayo team that finished that game.
Well, look, we've said all along, everyone in the country's analysed Dublin to death over the last 7 years with the success they've had. You've got to take them out of their comfort zone, you've got to push up, you've got to be brave, you've got to be in their face, and that's what Mayo did. To be fair, Mayo were making errors themselves, but it was just their attitude and their energy. If you look at the last play, in normal time, Mayo have 6 on 6, they're forwards inside the Dublin 45, they're all out, they're pushing totally up all over the pitch on Dublin, and that's what you had to do to try and take Dublin out of their comfort zone. In the first half, Dublin controlled the game, there was no contact from Mayo, it was 10-4 and it was cruise control. The second half, we knew they would under James Horn. That is the only way he sets up his teams. I'm sure people are saying, would they play a bit more defensive? They went all out attack in the second half, and they got the rewards from it. That combination of Mayo's bravery, but also, look, Dublin will look back on the unforced errors. They're so uncharacteristic. Davy Byrne, John Small, Niall Scully, guys who have been absolutely phenomenal, outstanding for Dublin over the years. The mistakes just started to pile up. And what it was that momentum, not having the experience to regain control of the match as the tide was turning against them. And ultimately, Mayo's energy, you could see the black card in extra time as well was a big thing. That allowed Mayo to knock over 2 or 3 points in a row, and Dublin just didn't have the time to wrestle it back.
Tommy Conroy and Ryan O'Donoghue stood up today to kick 4 points apiece. Can you talk to me about their performances?
Yeah, look, in the first half, no Mayo forward had scored. It was exactly what we had expected, the areas they'd struggle with in that half. But to be fair, we talked about it on the pod during the week. If Mayo were going to get over the line, they needed massive performance from these younger players. And make no bones, that is a huge win for Mayo GAA. It's a huge win for those young players. They've had 7, 8, 9 years of heartache at the hands of this Dublin team. And for Tommy Conroy to kick 3 massive points, look, he was struggling. There was no two ways about it for the first 45, 50 minutes. But that's just the attitude of Mayo. They've never been wanting for that. They've never been a question about their commitment and their drive and their desire. And they kept on going. And finally they started getting the breaks. And the creek started showing in Dublin's defence. And Tommy Conroy kicks 3 brilliant points. Ryan O'Donoghue kicks a couple of points as well. And you know, that just shows serious balls from those guys. Like I say, young, inexperienced players. It was going against them. The Dublin defence was well marshalled. They didn't get a sniff in the first half. But just like Mayo have done over the past decade, they kept on going. And that energy, that attitude from them, look, they deserve it. And it's hard for me and it's hard for Dublin supporters because it's been such an amazing run from an incredible team. But to see Mayo supporters there today, they've been through the heartache, and those Mayo players, it's a massive win for them.
Paddy, thanks very much. Hard luck. I know it's tough sitting here after that, but it's been a long time coming, as you said, 6 years in a row, 6 All-Ireland titles in a row. The incredible run has been ended by Mayo today. Perhaps fitting that it's Mayo that beat you after all those battles. I can't wait for the football pod this week with Andy Moran. I know you're probably not feeling like that, but I'm looking forward to it. We'll be recording later in the week. We'll try and track down Andy before that. Paddy, thanks a million.
No worries. All the best.